Welcome to our channel. We are so glad you found your way here. Let us help you fall asleep. Let's begin with the quiet collapse of General Motors, the historical fall of the automobile giant. Take a slow, deep breath in and release it. Even the tallest towers eventually quiet down. Tonight, we gently explore the empty boardrooms and forgotten ambitions of the past. Your mind is calm, and we are ready to begin. The roots of this automotive behemoth trace back to the early 20th century, specifically to 1908. Founded by William C. Durant, the company emerged from a collection of existing automobile brands, consolidating their strengths under a singular banner. The creation of General Motors marked a significant shift within the industry, as various manufacturers came together, fostering innovation and competition in a burgeoning market. Durant's vision was clear: to dominate the American automotive landscape. Through strategic acquisitions, he expanded the company's portfolio, adding iconic names such as Cadillac, Chevrolet, and Pontiac. This diversification allowed for a broader range of products, catering to different consumer segments. The early years were characterized by rapid growth and ambitious production techniques. Assembly lines became the standard, streamlining manufacturing processes and reducing costs. This approach not only increased efficiency, but also made automobiles accessible to the average American. As the decades progressed, the company navigated challenges, adapting to changing consumer preferences and external economic pressures. The post-World War II era heralded a golden age, with remarkable sales figures and an expansive network of dealerships. The initial success laid a foundation that would shape the trajectory of the automotive industry, illustrating both the potential for greatness and the fragility inherent in corporate growth strategies. The early 20th century marked the dawn of an era characterized by rapid innovation and expansion within the automobile industry. This period witnessed the emergence of pioneering manufacturers who harnessed assembly line production techniques, significantly reducing the time and cost associated with vehicle manufacturing. Local factories began to sprout across the landscape, each contributing to the growing demand for personal transportation. It became commonplace to see Model Ts traversing the dirt roads of a burgeoning nation, symbolizing freedom and progress. This region experienced a surge in the establishment of dealerships and service stations, facilitating the widespread adoption of automobiles among the American populace. The thrilling promise of mobility transformed daily life, with families embarking on road trips and industries evolving to support the needs of an increasingly mobile society. It was during this time that branding and marketing began to take center stage, as companies vied for consumer attention, shaping public perception through innovative advertising campaigns. The competitive landscape emerged as a double-edged sword. While it drove the industry to new heights, it also introduced vulnerabilities. Over-reliance on consumer trends led some companies to overstretch their resources, with some unable to adapt swiftly to changing market dynamics. This growing complexity foreshadowed the challenges that would later beset even the most established names in the industry. Alfred P. Sloan's vision emerged as a beacon of modern management practices during a transformative era for the automotive industry. His approach emphasized decentralization, allowing divisions to operate independently while adhering to the overarching corporate strategy. This structure fostered innovation and responsiveness, enabling the organization to adapt to the shifting demands of consumers in this burgeoning market. Sloan's commitment to data-driven decision-making laid the groundwork for a new managerial paradigm. By relying on systematic analysis and market research, he equipped executives with the tools necessary to predict trends and respond effectively. This methodology distinguished the company from its competitors and propelled it to the forefront of the industry during the mid-20th century. The introduction of the annual model change reflected a keen understanding of consumer psychology. This strategic move not only stimulated demand, but also established a rhythm of anticipation among buyers. It cultivated brand loyalty, as customers eagerly awaited the next iteration of their favorite vehicles. This foresight contributed to a robust sales strategy that positioned the organization as an innovator. As time progressed, these methods became ingrained within the corporate culture. They formed a foundation that sustained the organization through periods of growth. Yet, even the most astute strategies could not stave off the inevitable shifts within the industry, leading to a gradual unraveling that would test the resilience of these once iconic practices. The introduction of the Chevrolet brand marked a significant expansion of the portfolio, positioning the company to capture diverse market segments. Launched in 1912, it aimed to appeal to a broader audience, offering a range of vehicles designed to meet varying consumer needs. This initiative reflected a strategic pivot in response to the rapidly changing dynamics of the automotive landscape. The new brand quickly gained traction, thanks to its focus on affordability and performance. Models such as the Chevrolet Series 490 became synonymous with accessible innovation, attracting customers who were eager for reliable transportation. This period saw a surge in production, with factories operating at full capacity and the company expanding its reach across the United States and beyond. Despite early successes, challenges began to surface, reshaping the competitive environment. The emergence of foreign manufacturers introduced competition that many domestic brands struggled to counteract. Additionally, shifting consumer preferences toward fuel efficiency and sustainability began to emerge. These evolving demands pressured the organization to innovate constantly, often resulting in a mismatch between consumer expectations and corporate responses. As the decades passed, the Chevrolet name became a double-edged sword, embodying both the promise of growth and the underlying vulnerabilities that would later contribute to a complex narrative of decline. The once proud brand now stands as a testament to the cyclical nature of market forces and consumer behavior. War reshaped the landscape of production, steering resources and labor toward military needs. General Motors pivoted from consumer automobiles to military vehicles and aircraft components. This shift was not merely a response to demand, it was a transformation that marked the company's adaptability in a time of crisis. Factories retooled, assembly lines transformed, and skilled workers became integral to the war effort. The production of tanks, trucks, and aircraft engines surged, highlighting the versatility of the company's manufacturing capabilities. This transition significantly bolstered profits during the war years, embedding a deeper reliance on governmental contracts and military production in the company's framework. Post-war, a unique challenge arose. The return to civilian automobile manufacturing required not only the restoration of pre-war production lines, but also an understanding of evolving consumer desires. The landscape had shifted, and the tastes of the American public had changed amid the backdrop of prosperity and industrial growth. This era prompted an influx of new competitors, eager to capture market share. The initial post-war boom was a double-edged sword. While production surged, the pressures of innovation and efficiency became paramount. The fading company faced a transition fraught with challenges, characterized by both opportunity and the lingering repercussions of its wartime successes. The post-war boom ushered in a period of unparalleled dominance for the automobile giant. Consumer demand surged, fueled by a burgeoning middle class eager to embrace the automobile culture. This regional prosperity translated into record sales figures, with cars becoming symbols of status and freedom. Factories operated at full capacity, producing sleek models that captured the imagination of the public, reinforcing the company's position as a leader in innovation and design. Marketing campaigns flourished, showcasing the allure of the automobile and elevating the brand to unprecedented heights. The expansion of interstate highways further facilitated travel and accessibility, creating a landscape where car ownership became a necessity. A network of dealerships blossomed, ensuring that the company remained a ubiquitous presence in American life. Despite this apparent triumph, underlying issues began to emerge. Competition from foreign automakers slowly intensified, hinting at the vulnerabilities that would later surface. The manufacturing processes, once celebrated for their efficiency, showed signs of stagnation as consumer preferences shifted. The once unassailable reputation began to falter, foreshadowing the challenges ahead. This period marked by growth and confidence. Also heralded significant advancements in automotive technology, most notably the introduction of the automatic transmission. This innovation promised to revolutionize the driving experience, allowing for a smoother transition between gears without manual intervention. It represented a shift toward convenience, appealing to a broader audience eager for a simpler driving experience. The automatic transmission's development was not without challenges. Engineers faced numerous obstacles, from mechanical reliability to production efficiency. Despite these hurdles, determination led to breakthroughs that, during this era, as the automatic transmission gained traction, the automobile industry underwent a transformation. Sales surged, and manufacturers found themselves embroiled in a race for innovation, striving to outpace rivals. In this environment, General Motors emerged as a leader, pushing boundaries and setting new standards. Yet the very success of this technology also sowed the seeds of complacency. As the market became saturated with automatic models, the drive for further innovation diminished. Competitors began to catch up, and the once dominant position began to wane, revealing a gradual decline that would shape the future of the company. Advertising strategies evolved alongside the shifting tides of consumer preferences. During its zenith, the company utilized bold campaigns that emphasized innovation, style, and American ingenuity. This period saw the introduction of iconic slogans and memorable imagery, designed to evoke a sense of aspiration among potential buyers. The allure of the automobile was portrayed not merely as a mode of transportation, but as a gateway to freedom and opportunity. In this region, the marketing team meticulously crafted narratives that connected emotionally with a broad audience. They recognized the power of visuals and storytelling, leveraging mass media to cement brand loyalty. Television commercials showcased sleek designs and cutting-edge technology, reinforcing the perception of an industry leader. This approach resonated deeply, contributing to a robust market presence. As competitors entered the fray with their own distinctive advertising tactics, the landscape began to shift. The once unassailable message of superiority faced challenges as emerging brands introduced fresh perspectives and innovative marketing techniques. Traditional methods began to falter under the weight of new digital platforms, where engagement took precedence over mere visibility. With the erosion of its market dominance, the fading company struggled to adapt its advertising strategies. What once captivated audiences now felt outdated. The disconnect between the brand and evolving consumer expectations marked a pivotal moment as the realm of automotive marketing entered a new era. This shift in the automotive landscape coincided with the rise of the Pontiac brand, which emerged as a symbol of performance and youthful exuberance during the mid-20th century. Emphasizing a sportier image, it carved a niche in the hearts of consumers yearning for speed and style. The introduction of models like the GTO, often hailed as one of the first muscle cars, underscored this identity, engaging a demographic eager for power on the open road. Advertising campaigns during this period cleverly positioned Pontiac as the choice for the adventurous spirit. They harnessed the allure of the open highway, tapping into a deep-seated desire for freedom and individuality. This strategy resonated widely, as it aligned perfectly with the cultural zeitgeist of the era, characterized by a post-war optimism and a burgeoning middle class. As performance became paramount, engineers and designers pushed the boundaries of innovation. The vehicles were equipped with powerful engines and bold designs, speaking directly to a generation that valued speed and aesthetics. Such advancements solidified Pontiac's reputation, elevating it beyond mere transportation to a lifestyle emblem. Yet, as consumer tastes began to shift towards fuel efficiency and practicality in later decades, the brand struggled to adapt. This inability to pivot. The creation of the Cadillac as a symbol of luxury marked a pivotal moment in automotive history. Established in 1899, it became a beacon of sophistication and engineering excellence. The meticulous craftsmanship and attention to detail set it apart from competitors. It was not merely a vehicle. It represented status, prestige, and innovation. As the years progressed, Cadillac embraced advanced technology. The introduction of the V8 engine in 1916 enhanced performance, solidifying its reputation in the luxury segment. The refined design elements, combined with powerful engineering, attracted a clientele eager to showcase their success. This vehicle became synonymous with the American dream, embodying aspirations of wealth and elegance. Marketing strategies evolved alongside the automobile itself. Bold advertising campaigns positioned Cadillac as the ultimate luxury vehicle, appealing to affluent buyers who sought exclusivity. It was not uncommon to see it gracing the driveways of the elite, reinforcing its image as the pinnacle of automotive design. Amidst this success, shifts in consumer preferences began to emerge. The luxury market started to fragment, giving rise to new competitors. As tastes evolved, the once unassailable position of Cadillac began to wane. This gradual decline highlighted the fragile nature of brand prestige as market dynamics shifted beneath the fading company. A once vibrant corporate culture began to unravel in the wake of shifting priorities and market pressures. Employees faced an environment increasingly characterized by uncertainty and disillusionment. Job security, once a hallmark of General Motors, transformed into a concern as layoffs and restructuring became commonplace. This atmosphere fostered a sense of trepidation among the workforce, altering perceptions of loyalty and commitment. The values that had once united employees now seemed distant, overshadowed by a growing disconnect between management and staff. Communication faltered, with many feeling unheard and undervalued. The workplace, once a source of pride and innovation, turned into a stagnant setting where creativity struggled to thrive. As external challenges mounted, internal morale plummeted. Employees experienced decreased motivation, leading to diminished productivity and a lack of engagement in their roles. The emphasis on short-term financial results overshadowed the cultivation of talent and the nurturing of a collaborative environment. In this climate, the sense of belonging that had previously thrived began to erode. Many sought opportunities elsewhere, leaving behind a once stalwart institution in search of fulfillment. The impact of this cultural shift resonated throughout the organization, casting a long shadow over its ability to adapt and innovate in an increasingly competitive landscape. Japanese automakers began to infiltrate the U.S. market during the late 20th century, introducing vehicles that offered reliability and fuel efficiency. These newcomers leveraged advanced manufacturing techniques and a deep understanding of consumer preferences, quickly capturing attention in a landscape dominated by established giants. Their approach emphasized quality and affordability, presenting a formidable challenge to the traditional manufacturers. The introduction of compact cars, which were increasingly desirable amid rising fuel prices, shifted consumer focus. It became evident that these foreign competitors were not merely niche players but serious contenders. The allure of lower operating costs and superior craftsmanship drew consumers away from familiar brands. This phenomenon exposed vulnerabilities within the fading company, which struggled to respond effectively to changing demands. As sales figures for domestic vehicles began to decline, executive strategies faltered. The once dominant market share slowly eroded, leading to a reevaluation of business practices. Analysts noted a lack of urgency in innovation and adaptation, further complicating the situation. The growing preference for Japanese models highlighted not only a shift in consumer behavior, but also a failure to anticipate market trends. These challenges culminated in an environment of uncertainty, forcing the fading company to confront the reality of its diminishing status in an evolving automotive world. The struggle to reclaim lost ground became increasingly evident. The repercussions of the oil crisis of the 1970s had a profound impact on sales. Rising fuel prices led to a swift shift in consumer preferences, with buyers gravitating towards smaller, more fuel-efficient vehicles. This transition caught the fading company off guard, as its product lineup was heavily focused on larger, gas-guzzling automobiles. The once unassailable market position began to erode as competition from foreign manufacturers surged, offering compact models that aligned with the new economic realities. In this region, showrooms that once brimmed with the latest models now struggled to attract foot traffic. Sales figures plummeted, forcing management to confront a harsh new landscape marked by dwindling profits. The iconic status of the brand began to tarnish, as loyal customers sought alternatives that promised both efficiency and affordability. Production facilities, once bustling with activity, faced layoffs and closures. Workers who had dedicated their lives to the company watched in dismay as their livelihoods were threatened by the shifting dynamics of the automotive market. Executives engaged in a series of emergency meetings, contemplating drastic measures to salvage their operations. Yet, despite their efforts, the evolving preferences of consumers proved difficult to navigate, leaving the company grappling with the stark realities of a changing world. The aftershocks of this crisis would resonate for years to come, reshaping its trajectory. This trajectory became increasingly influenced by stringent environmental regulations that emerged in the late 20th century. These mandates required a fundamental reevaluation of automotive design, pushing companies to innovate in ways that often conflicted with established practices. The need for fuel efficiency and reduced emissions forced engineers to navigate a complex landscape of regulatory compliance while attempting to maintain performance and consumer appeal. These changes manifested in the introduction of hybrid technologies and electric vehicle platforms, which required significant investment in research and development. The rising costs associated with these initiatives strained resources, compounding existing financial pressures. The once unassailable dominance of traditional combustion engines faced increasing scrutiny as consumer preferences began shifting toward greener alternatives. Manufacturers found themselves competing not only with one another, but also with emerging startups focused exclusively on sustainable technology. This new competition further eroded market share and placed additional strain on legacy systems. In many cases, the pace of innovation proved insufficient. Regulatory deadlines loomed, often resulting in hurried designs that compromised quality and consumer trust. The landscape became littered with recalls and public relations missteps, further tarnishing reputations. This period marked a significant turning point, signaling a broader transformation in the automotive industry, driven by external pressures that reshaped foundational principles of design and production. The shift in consumer preferences during the late 20th century led to a notable evolution in the product line. Muscle cars, once the crown jewels of the automotive landscape, began to fade from the foreground. This shift reflected changing tastes, economic factors, and an increasing focus on fuel efficiency. The once dominant models, characterized by their powerful engines and aggressive styling, found themselves overshadowed by the rising demand for compact cars. This transition was not merely a response to market trends, but also a reflection of the broader societal changes occurring in this region. Rising fuel prices and growing environmental awareness prompted manufacturers to innovate. General Motors, adapting to this new reality, introduced a range of compact vehicles, emphasizing practicality and economy. The early 2000s compact offerings, such as the Chevrolet Cobalt, became symbols of this transformation, appealing to a more diverse consumer base. Production strategies shifted accordingly, with an emphasis on cost efficiency and convenience. This led to the consolidation of resources and the reduction of diverse, niche offerings that once defined the brand. The once robust lineup of models diminished, focusing instead on a streamlined selection that prioritized market viability. As the company navigated these changes, it struggled to maintain its identity amidst a rapidly evolving automotive landscape. The echoes of its storied past lingered, overshadowed by the necessity of adaptation. The rise of challengers in this market signaled a shift in the automotive landscape. Ford and Chrysler began to reclaim ground, employing innovative strategies and fresh designs that resonated with consumers. Their resurgence was marked by an agile approach, deftly responding to evolving preferences, while General Motors struggled to redefine its identity. This period saw Ford introducing electrifying models that captured the imagination, leveraging cutting-edge technology to appeal to a more environmentally conscious audience. Chrysler, too, embraced a new vision, revitalizing its brand with an emphasis on affordability and style. The iconic designs of these manufacturers began to dominate showroom floors, drawing attention away from the fading company. Consumers displayed an increasing attraction to the unique offerings that stood in stark contrast to the once untouchable dominance of General Motors. Sales figures for both Ford and Chrysler began to reflect this shift, as they carved out significant market shares previously held by the giant. Showrooms transformed, filled with a new generation of vehicles that spoke directly to the desires of modern drivers. This new competition compelled the fading company to confront its diminishing relevance, illuminating the stark reality of an industry in flux, where legacy alone could no longer sustain success. Each model rolled out by these challengers represented a quiet revolution, steadily redefining consumer expectations and market dynamics. The financial crisis of the 1980s marked a significant turning point for the fading company. An economic downturn swept across the nation, leading to a contraction in consumer spending and a sharp decline in vehicle sales. This period revealed vulnerabilities in their long-standing business model. Over-reliance on a few flagship models left it exposed to shifts in consumer preferences and economic realities, with profits dwindling. Production facilities began to experience reduced outputs, resulting in layoffs and strikes that further compounded operational inefficiencies. Unions, once a source of strength, became a point of contention as negotiations over wages and job security intensified. These internal conflicts disrupted productivity, eroding morale among the workforce. During this time, the competition grew more adept at capturing the market's attention, offering smaller, fuel-efficient vehicles that contrasted starkly with the larger, less efficient offerings from the fading company. As foreign manufacturers gained traction, the once dominant position of the giant began to erode. Financial reports indicated mounting losses. Management sought to address these challenges through various restructuring efforts, yet these initiatives often fell short. The weight of legacy costs and a rigid corporate structure hindered adaptability. The unsettling realization that the market had shifted from beneath it marked the beginning of a gradual decline that would have lasting repercussions. The introduction of the Saturn brand symbolized an attempt to rejuvenate the once mighty corporation. This initiative sought to appeal to a new generation of consumers, emphasizing quality, affordability, and innovative manufacturing techniques. A promise of a different kind of automotive experience emerged, one that would redefine relations between manufacturers and buyers. The establishment of Saturn factories in this region showcased a commitment to a new, cooperative work culture, where employees were encouraged to share ideas and participate in decision-making processes. It aimed to create a tight-knit community surrounding production, fostering a sense of pride and ownership among workers. The assembly lines emphasized efficiency and reduced waste, reflecting an attempt to break away from traditional practices that had previously defined the industry. These efforts produced vehicles that were marketed as reliable and distinctive, targeting consumers who were increasingly disenchanted with established brands. The Saturn experience was designed to be transparent, with no haggle pricing and a focus on customer satisfaction. Despite these innovations, the initial excitement gradually waned. As the automobile landscape continued to evolve, the brand struggled to maintain its identity and relevance. The fluctuating demands of the market and the weight of corporate structure pulled at Saturn, contributing to a more extensive narrative of decline within the fading company. The initial promise became overshadowed by the realities of a shifting industry. Labor unions played a pivotal role in shaping operations within this aging behemoth. They emerged as significant stakeholders during the mid-20th century, advocating for workers' rights, better wages, and improved working conditions. This influence brought about substantial changes, fostering a climate of negotiation and, at times, confrontation between management and labor. As the decades progressed, the relationship between unions and the corporation became increasingly complex. While initial agreements yielded improvements for employees, the growing demands of unions began to place a strain on financial resources. Work stoppages and strikes became common, leading to interruptions in production and a decline in manufacturing efficiency. Economic pressures exacerbated the situation. Global competition intensified as foreign automakers entered the market, offering more economical options to consumers. It became evident that rising labor costs could not be sustained amidst dwindling sales. The once strong bargaining power of labor unions began to wane as the company sought to streamline operations and reduce expenses. In this context, the balance of power shifted. Efforts to automate processes and reduce the workforce were met with resistance. The struggle reflected a broader narrative of adaptation and resistance, encapsulating the vulnerabilities of a once dominant automotive giant navigating an evolving landscape. The legacy of labor relations within this organization remains a significant factor in understanding its gradual decline. The decade unfolded with ambitious strategies aimed at global expansion, as leadership sought to penetrate emerging markets. A series of acquisitions and partnerships were established, which aimed to capitalize on the growing demand for automobiles in various regions. New factories sprang up in countries such as China and Brazil, reflecting an aggressive pursuit of a wider customer base. Investment flowed into innovative technologies, with the hope of creating vehicles that appealed to diverse lifestyles and preferences. This approach was celebrated within the industry, as it promised to solidify the brand's presence on the world stage. However, the execution often fell short of expectations. Manufacturing complexities and cultural differences posed significant challenges, leading to inconsistent product quality and customer satisfaction. During this period, competition intensified. Rivals, both established and emerging, began to adapt more swiftly to changing consumer demands. While General Motors aimed to position itself as a leader in the global market, it frequently struggled to maintain its footing against these nimble competitors. The sprawling network of plants and the intricate supply chain began to reveal inefficiencies. As the decade progressed, the disconnect between strategy and execution became increasingly apparent. This misalignment not only hindered growth, but also sowed the seeds of discontent among workers and stakeholders alike, contributing to a broader sense of unease surrounding the corporation's future. The growing preference for sport utility vehicles and light trucks marked a significant transformation in consumer behavior. Automakers began to pivot their strategies, recognizing a surge in demand for larger vehicles. This shift was fueled by changing lifestyles, where practicality and space became paramount for families and individuals alike. General Motors found itself at a crossroads, faced with the task of adapting to this evolving landscape. Production lines underwent modifications, prioritizing these robust vehicles over traditional sedans. Resources were reallocated, with investments being made in the development of new models that catered to this emerging market. The landscape became increasingly competitive as rivals aggressively pursued similar strategies. Market share became a battleground, with each manufacturer vying for dominance in this lucrative segment. During this period, financial performance was closely scrutinized. Initial successes in SUV sales offered a reprieve from previous struggles. However, this reliance on a singular market segment introduced vulnerabilities. The potential for economic downturns loomed as consumer preferences remained unpredictable. Infrastructure challenges, such as rising fuel prices and environmental regulations, began to impact sales. Despite initial gains, the concentration on SUVs and light trucks created a precarious position. As competition intensified and external factors shifted, the long-term sustainability of this approach came into question. The echoes of past decisions continued to reverberate through the organization, shaping its uncertain future. A profound transformation unfolded as the internet began to infiltrate automotive sales and marketing. This new digital landscape introduced unprecedented levels of information accessibility. Potential customers could now explore vehicle specifications, compare prices, and read reviews from the comfort of their homes, altering their purchasing behavior significantly. In this environment, traditional advertising strategies grew less effective. The reliance on television and print media diminished, leaving manufacturers grappling with the challenge of adapting to an audience that sought engagement online. Social media platforms emerged as crucial arenas for connection, where interactions could be immediate and personal. It became essential for brands to cultivate an authentic presence, responding to inquiries and feedback swiftly, a stark contrast to previous approaches. Simultaneously, the rise of online marketplaces presented new competitors, reshaping the landscape of automotive sales. Consumers began to favor platforms that offered convenience and transparency over the conventional dealership experience. This shift rendered the established sales models increasingly obsolete. As these changes unfolded, they exposed vulnerabilities within the fading company. With a legacy built on traditional practices, adapting to this digital age proved daunting. The disconnection between established methods and emerging trends was palpable, highlighting a critical juncture. The resulting impact on sales strategies and customer engagement underscored the necessity for an evolution that many struggled to embrace. Economic pressures during the Great Recession created a perfect storm for this fading company. An escalating unemployment rate and plummeting consumer confidence led to a sharp decline in vehicle sales. Households tightened their budgets, prioritizing basic needs over significant purchases, fundamentally altering the landscape of the automotive market. As consumers hesitated, a wave of uncertainty swept through the industry, affecting production schedules and inventory management. This region, once bustling with activity and innovation, became marked by layoffs and reduced workforce morale. With diminished demand, factories faced closure, resulting in a stark shift in operations. The once proud assembly lines that had churned out millions of vehicles now stood silent, echoing the decline of this storied manufacturer. Financial institutions tightened lending policies, further complicating the ability of consumers to finance new vehicles. The market witnessed increasing competition from foreign manufacturers that offered more fuel-efficient and affordable models. These changes intensified scrutiny on pricing strategies and product offerings. In the face of mounting losses, the company sought government intervention, leading to a controversial bailout. While this financial lifeline provided temporary respite, it did not address the core issues that had emerged in the preceding years. The structural weaknesses became increasingly evident as the landscape of the automotive industry shifted irrevocably. The intervention in 2009 marked a pivotal moment in the decline of this automotive giant. Faced with crippling financial turmoil, it sought refuge in a government bailout, a lifeline that underscored the severity of its crisis. The federal government allocated approximately $50 billion to stabilize operations, a decision that revealed the precariousness of its existence. This infusion of capital was not merely a financial transaction. It represented a broader acknowledgement of the consequences that would arise from its potential failure. As operations continued under the watchful eye of the government, restructuring became inevitable. The once mighty corporation underwent painful transformations, shedding brands that had stood for decades and reducing its workforce significantly. The emotional weight of these decisions resonated not only within the company, but also across the communities dependent on it. This intervention and the ensuing reorganization were attempts to course correct, but they also illuminated the underlying issues that had long plagued its management and strategy. In the wake of this bailout, the public perception of the company shifted dramatically. The narrative of resilience intertwined with one of dependency. While the immediate crisis was mitigated, the long-term implications of such a reliance on governmental assistance fostered an unsettling atmosphere, one that would haunt the company for years to come. The restructuring plan initiated in the wake of the financial turmoil marked a pivotal turning point. Acknowledging the weight of its debts, the organization entered bankruptcy proceedings, a decision that reverberated throughout the automotive landscape. This action was not merely a strategic maneuver, it represented a profound reckoning with the realities of an evolving market. In the aftermath, the focus shifted to streamlining operations and shedding excesses that had long impeded progress. Manufacturing facilities were closed, and thousands of jobs were lost, displacing entire communities that had relied on the stability of this once mighty employer. Product lines were reevaluated, with an emphasis on efficiency and innovation, a stark contrast to the sprawling portfolio that had characterized its earlier years. Financial restructuring involved renegotiating terms with creditors and engaging in an arduous process of rebranding. Although there were glimpses of resurgence, marked by the introduction of new models and a renewed focus on electric vehicles, the specter of past decisions lingered. Trust, once a hallmark of the organization, had eroded, leaving consumers hesitant. This era of transformation was underscored by ongoing challenges, each move met with scrutiny from industry analysts and the public alike. The struggle to regain footing in a competitive market became a defining characteristic of this chapter, as the firm grappled with its identity and future direction. Innovation emerged as a potential beacon of hope in the form of the new Chevrolet Volt, a vehicle designed to navigate the shifting landscape of transportation. This model represented a significant pivot towards electric mobility, embodying a response to rising environmental concerns and changing consumer preferences. With its dual propulsion system, the Volt combined an electric motor with a gasoline engine, presenting a solution for range anxiety while emphasizing energy efficiency. Initial reception favored this approach, as enthusiasts and critics alike acknowledged the potential for the Volt to reshape perceptions of electric vehicles. It symbolized a commitment to sustainability and modernity, even as the firm faced mounting challenges. Efforts to market this innovation highlighted advancements in technology, from regenerative braking to enhanced battery life, instilling a sense of optimism within the fading company. Production facilities adapted to accommodate this new focus, showcasing a willingness to invest in the future despite the uncertainties that loomed large. Yet the complexities of consumer acceptance and market dynamics proved formidable. The enthusiasm surrounding the Volt did not entirely shield it from broader trends affecting the industry. As competitors introduced their own electric models, the landscape grew increasingly crowded, complicating the narrative of the once dominant automaker. The Volt's journey became a microcosm of the larger struggles unfolding within these ruins of ambition and innovation. The challenges of rebuilding brand trust post-bankruptcy presented a formidable landscape for this faded giant. Struggling to regain consumer confidence, efforts were often met with skepticism. The shadows of past missteps loomed large, overshadowing initiatives aimed at revitalization. Marketing campaigns, while meticulously crafted, frequently fell flat against the backdrop of public perception. New leadership attempted to instill a culture of transparency and accountability, yet the weight of history lingered. Stakeholders were hesitant, reluctant to invest in a company whose legacy included significant financial mismanagement. The echoes of layoffs and shuttered plants reverberated through communities once vibrant with industry. This region, once synonymous with innovation and prosperity, became a reminder of what had been lost. Consumers were cautious, drawn to competitors that promised reliability and ethical practices. In response, extensive outreach programs aimed to reconnect with a disillusioned customer base, but the road to redemption proved arduous. Quality and safety became focal points as engineers worked tirelessly to restore faith in the brand. Each new release was scrutinized, a delicate balancing act between ambition and the palpable anxiety of public judgment. The remnants of trust remained fragile as the company endeavored to transform itself in a landscape that had irrevocably shifted, leaving behind the vestiges of its storied past. The urgency for change became palpable. In response to the escalating demand for sustainability, this fading company began to pivot towards electric vehicles. With pressure mounting from consumers and regulators alike, it sought to reestablish relevance in a market that had begun to value innovation over tradition. The once dominant internal combustion engine gave way to the silent, efficient hum of electric motors. Ambitious plans emerged as a new vision took shape. It announced investments amounting to tens of billions of dollars, aimed at developing a robust lineup of electric models. These efforts signified a shift not just in product offerings, but also in corporate philosophy. The journey towards electrification was fraught with challenges, including supply chain intricacies and technological hurdles, yet there was a resolute commitment to progress. The landscape of this industry began to transform, with competitors rapidly entering the electric space. This urgency pressed further on the company, compelling it to innovate to keep pace. The the once solid foundation of legacy vehicles slowly eroded, revealing new opportunities and threats. It became apparent that the future of mobility would rest on the shoulders of electric technology, a realization that instilled both hope and uncertainty in the hearts of stakeholders. The past lingered in the background, but the road ahead was increasingly defined by the whispers of change. The competition emerged with a new paradigm, reshaping the automotive landscape. Tesla, with its electric powertrains and software-driven innovations, began to capture the attention of consumers and investors alike. This shift caught the fading company off guard, as it had long thrived within a model centered on traditional combustion engines. The allure of electric vehicles grew stronger, fueled by a societal push for sustainability and environmental responsibility. While Tesla's market strategies resonated with a younger generation, the established giant found itself grappling with an identity crisis. This fresh wave of innovation contrasted sharply with the legacy systems that had once defined the industry. The allure of cutting-edge technology and automation left many traditional manufacturers struggling to comprehend the gravity of the shift. Investment strategies pivoted, and a sense of urgency permeated the corridors of the older company. They sought to adapt, but the inertia of decades weighed heavily on decision-making. Production lines that once churned out vehicles in mass quantities had to be reimagined to accommodate a new electric future. Corporate leaders faced mounting pressure to evolve, yet the legacy of their past continued to haunt them. Amid these challenges, the market dynamics transformed, and consumers began to favor brands that embraced this new direction. The road ahead remained uncertain, with the specter of past glory overshadowing an unclear future. The introduction of the GMC Hummer EV emerged as a strategic effort to reconnect with a legacy that had once defined an era of automotive prowess. This vehicle, a reimagining of a once celebrated icon, arrived amidst a landscape marked by fluctuating consumer preferences and heightened environmental awareness. It represented not merely a model, but a calculated gamble to recapture market share in an industry increasingly pivoting towards sustainability. Design elements harken back to the rugged aesthetics that characterized the original Hummer, yet infused with advanced technology and electric powertrain capabilities. This approach aimed to resonate with both nostalgic consumers and a new generation seeking eco-friendly alternatives. The construction of this electric vehicle involved innovation in materials and engineering, reflecting an effort to balance tradition with modernity. Early marketing initiatives highlighted the vehicle's performance metrics and off-road capabilities, showcasing its ability to traverse terrains that had once been the exclusive domain of its predecessor. Enthusiasts and critics alike observed the return of this emblematic nameplate, questioning whether it could indeed restore the fading company's standing among its contemporaries. Responses varied, with some expressing optimism, while others remained skeptical of the overarching strategy. The Hummer EV thus stood as a symbol of both hope and uncertainty, embodying the complexities of revival in a rapidly evolving marketplace. Investment in research and development emerges as a crucial element in the quest for future growth, particularly within this sector. Significant resources allocated to R&D can foster innovation, develop new technologies, and enhance existing products, thereby ensuring relevance in an ever-changing landscape. A commitment to R&D signifies an organization's recognition of the need to adapt and evolve, especially when competition stiffens. In this context, the fading company grappled with the challenges of an industry increasingly leaning towards electric and autonomous vehicles. The pressure to innovate weighed heavily upon them as rivals surged ahead with groundbreaking advancements. Resources once funneled into traditional combustion engines became insufficient in addressing the shifting consumer preferences and environmental concerns. Strategies that prioritize R&D not only pave the way for developing cutting-edge technologies, but also play a vital role in rebuilding consumer trust and brand loyalty. A pronounced focus on sustainable practices and electric alternatives could revitalize perceptions, positioning the company as a leader in the next automotive revolution. Failure to meaningfully invest in R&D risks stagnation, potentially leading to obsolescence. The landscape surrounding them is marked by rapid technological advancement, and only through relentless innovation can they hope to carve a path toward recovery and renewed prominence in the market. Global supply chains began to unravel in early 2020 as the repercussions of a worldwide pandemic took hold. Production lines once humming with activity fell silent, factories shuttered, and the flow of materials ceased. This disruption impacted not only vehicle assembly, but also the procurement of essential components. The reliance on overseas suppliers became glaringly evident, revealing vulnerabilities in sourcing critical materials and parts. Shortages of semiconductors, which are integral to modern vehicle technology, emerged as a significant hurdle. This region, once a testament to efficiency, witnessed prolonged delays in manufacturing processes. The ripple effect spread through dealerships and service centers, leading to an inventory crisis that stymied sales and frustrated consumers. Many brands, once synonymous with innovation and reliability, found themselves unable to deliver vehicles in a timely manner. The once thriving industry was now beset with uncertainty, as production schedules became erratic and customer expectations shifted. Amidst these challenges, companies attempted to pivot, reevaluating suppliers and seeking alternative sources. Their efforts were met with mixed results, as the global logistics network struggled to adapt to new realities. The stark contrast between past dominance and current struggles painted a somber picture of an industry grappling with the consequences of unforeseen circumstances. A profound ripple effect emerged from the global chip shortage, impacting production and sales within this fading company. As semiconductor supplies dwindled, assembly lines were forced to slow, halting the once fluid manufacturing processes that had defined the automotive landscape. In these factories, the hum of machinery was replaced by an unsettling silence, a stark reminder of dependency on a fragile supply chain. This crisis manifested not only in reduced output, but also in a significant backlog of orders. Potential buyers found themselves waiting weeks, even months, for vehicles that had once rolled off assembly lines in a matter of days. The allure of new models faded as customers shifted their attention to competitors who managed to navigate these challenges more adeptly. Sales figures reflected this struggle, with quarterly reports unveiling declining numbers. This company, once a titan in the automotive sphere, saw its market share erode, leaving it vulnerable to nimble rivals who adapted to the new reality. The once flourishing showrooms grew sparse, filled with empty spaces where vehicles should have been displayed. In this region, the repercussions of the chip shortage extended beyond production halls, reverberating through supply chains and into the daily lives of consumers, altering expectations of availability and prompting a reevaluation of brand loyalty. The growing awareness of environmental issues led to a pronounced shift in corporate strategy. This movement embraced sustainability with increasing fervor, as stakeholders urged companies to adapt to changing societal values. It became apparent that the automotive sector was at a crossroads, requiring innovation and commitment to ecological responsibility. This urgency prompted the Fading Company to publicly pledge a transition towards electric vehicles, aiming to reduce carbon emissions and align with a greener future. Strategic investments in research and development became paramount, as this region witnessed an influx of funding directed toward sustainable technologies. These efforts aimed to not only enhance product offerings, but also to address regulatory pressures and shifting consumer preferences. Traditional manufacturing processes faced scrutiny as companies sought to minimize waste and improve energy efficiency within their operations. Collaboration with technology partners offered new opportunities, enabling the exploration of advanced battery technologies and renewable energy solutions. Public sentiment increasingly favored brands that demonstrated accountability and transparency, compelling many to undertake ambitious sustainability initiatives. As the competition intensified, those who failed to adapt often found themselves at a disadvantage, losing market share to competitors that effectively embraced this evolving landscape. The quest for a greener future now stands as a critical component of corporate identity, influencing decisions at every level of the organization. Investments in autonomous vehicle technology emerged as a beacon of hope amidst the challenges faced by the Fading Company. This ambition aimed not only to reclaim market presence, but also to redefine mobility in an increasingly technology-driven world. The allure of driverless vehicles promised efficiency and safety, positioning the organization at the forefront of innovation. Research and development efforts concentrated on creating advanced systems capable of navigating complex environments. Teams worked tirelessly to integrate artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms, seeking to enhance the reliability of these vehicles. Testing took place in varied conditions, aiming to refine performance and address safety concerns, ensuring that the end product would meet stringent regulatory standards. Partnerships with technology firms and academic institutions were established, pooling resources and expertise to accelerate progress in this domain. Despite setbacks and delays, optimism persisted within the organization as prototypes showcased potential. These vehicles were envisioned as a solution to urban congestion and environmental issues, aligning with the broader quest for sustainability. Challenges related to consumer trust and acceptance remained significant hurdles. Public skepticism lingered around the safety and reliability of autonomous systems, complicating the path forward. The future of this initiative hung in a delicate balance, dependent on technological advancements and shifts in public perception. Shifts in consumer preferences began to reshape the automotive market, reflecting a growing desire for sustainability and innovation. Traditional vehicles, once symbols of freedom and prosperity, gradually lost their allure. Increasing awareness of environmental issues prompted potential buyers to seek alternatives that aligned with their values. This region witnessed a rise in demand for electric and hybrid vehicles, introducing new competitors eager to capture the attention of a more discerning clientele. Amidst these changing tides, established manufacturers struggled to adapt swiftly. Legacy designs and outdated technologies clashed with the expectations of a generation focused on eco-friendliness and efficiency. The allure of sleek, modern designs took precedence, while the once revered internal combustion engine faced scrutiny. Buyers began to prioritize features such as connectivity, autonomous capabilities, and energy efficiency over traditional horsepower. This shift also revealed an evolving relationship between consumers and brands. Loyalty diminished as new entrants offered innovative solutions and unique experiences. Satisfaction became contingent not merely on performance, but on a brand's commitment to sustainability and social responsibility. The fading company found itself at a crossroads where the very essence of its identity was called into question. As preferences evolved, the path forward became increasingly uncertain, with each decision reflecting a deeper transformation in the automotive landscape. The implications of these changes extended beyond sales figures, signaling a profound shift in the industry's future. Manufacturing costs began to rise steadily, reflecting broader economic pressures. These fluctuations eroded the profit margins that had once supported expansive growth. Rising prices for raw materials and labor created an environment where efficiency became paramount, yet many found themselves unable to adapt quickly enough. This region, once a center of innovation, now struggled under the weight of escalating expenses. Production facilities, once bustling with activity, faced challenges in maintaining output. Inefficient processes became evident as companies sought to cut costs without sacrificing quality. The looming specter of inflation left little room for error, and attempts to streamline operations often yielded mixed results. Workers felt the strain of diminished resources, and morale suffered amidst uncertainty. Competition intensified, with rivals seeking alternative materials and production methods to counteract cost pressures. This shift tested the resilience of the automobile giant, which had thrived on traditional manufacturing practices. Strategic decisions became increasingly crucial, as the need to pivot towards more sustainable practices clashed with the legacy of established methods. The evolving landscape highlighted vulnerabilities, revealing the fragility of a once dominant position in the market. As the cost of doing business continued to escalate, the difficulty in passing these costs on to consumers only compounded the challenges faced. The landscape, once fertile, now appeared stark and unforgiving, casting long shadows over the industry's future. A series of strategic marketing moves emerged as attempts to reshape perceptions surrounding the fading company. New branding initiatives sought to evoke nostalgia while simultaneously positioning it as a modern contender in a rapidly evolving market. Campaigns leveraged the rich heritage of innovation, aiming to rekindle a sense of pride among consumers who once identified with the brand's legacy of excellence. The introduction of electric vehicles represented a pivotal pivot, embracing sustainability in response to environmental concerns. This shift aimed to attract a generation increasingly committed to eco-friendly solutions. Yet, despite the promising narratives, initial consumer reception remained tepid, revealing deep-seated skepticism toward the rebranding efforts. Marketing materials often depicted sleek designs and advanced technology, but enthusiasm proved difficult to ignite. In this region of restructuring, the focus on digital engagement intensified. Social media platforms became vital in efforts to connect with potential buyers, yet the resonance of these messages often fell flat. Traditional advertising channels saw a decline as shifting consumer habits rendered them less effective. The disconnect between the brand's aspirations and public perception illustrated a burgeoning chasm, one that grew wider with each passing year. The infrastructure necessary for electric vehicles began to emerge as a critical factor in the automotive landscape. This region, once dominated by gasoline-fueled engines, now found itself at a crossroads where the future was contingent upon the development of adequate charging networks. The absence of comprehensive infrastructure hindered consumer confidence, creating a reluctance to embrace electric options. As potential buyers weighed the convenience of traditional vehicles against the limitations of electric alternatives, hesitation turned into stagnation. Efforts to expand charging stations faced significant challenges. Investment from both private and public sectors was sporadic, resulting in uneven distribution and accessibility issues. In certain areas, the charging options were plentiful, while others remained starkly underdeveloped. This inconsistency contributed to an overall sense of uncertainty regarding electric vehicle ownership, complicating the transition from legacy fuel sources. As competitors began to innovate and solidify their foothold in the electric market, the fading company struggled to keep pace. Promises of electric advancements often appeared hollow against a backdrop of inadequate infrastructure. The once prominent giant found itself not only facing external pressures, but also grappling with internal misalignments in strategy and execution. The vision of a sustainable future faced obstacles that seemed insurmountable, leaving it increasingly isolated in a rapidly evolving industry. The shifting landscape of mobility brought forth ambitious plans for innovation. A focus on electric vehicles, autonomous technology, and shared mobility solutions emerged as critical cornerstones in the fading company's strategy. Leadership sought to redefine transportation, aiming to create a future where personal vehicles transformed into connected, efficient modes of transport. Investment in research and development marked a pivotal direction. Resources were allocated to explore advancements in battery technology and artificial intelligence, seeking to enhance vehicle performance while reducing environmental impact. This approach promised to align with the growing demand for sustainable solutions, yet results remained elusive. Efforts were made to establish partnerships with technology firms, recognizing the necessity of collaboration in this complex environment. These alliances aim to accelerate the development of smart mobility frameworks, integrating vehicles into a broader network of urban infrastructure. Despite high aspirations, challenges in execution and market adaptation persisted, creating a sense of uncertainty regarding the timeline for realization. Consumer sentiments reflected skepticism towards traditional automotive models, with preferences shifting towards sustainable and shared transport options. This evolution in public perception further complicated the company's trajectory. The lingering question of whether the vision could translate into tangible success loomed large, as the automotive giant navigated through the intricate dynamics of a rapidly transforming industry. The competitive landscape began to shift dramatically, with rival entities introducing electric vehicle innovations that captured consumer interest. General Motors found itself in a precarious position as Ford unveiled its electric models, which resonated with a growing demographic eager for sustainable options. The launch of the Ford Mustang Mach-E positioned it as a formidable contender, drawing attention and resources away from the fading company. It became increasingly apparent that this region of automotive development was evolving rapidly. The consumer appetite for electric vehicles surged, propelling competitors to invest heavily in research and development. GM's attempts to catch up were marred by production delays and supply chain challenges, creating further distance between it and its rivals. The electric vehicle market emerged as a battleground where innovation and agility determined success. As Ford expanded its electric vehicle portfolio, it meticulously crafted marketing strategies that highlighted the environmental benefits and advanced technology. This approach resonated profoundly with consumers who began prioritizing eco-friendly choices. Meanwhile, GM struggled to restructure its offerings, often perceived as lagging in the race for electrification. The contrast became stark, reflecting the broader challenges faced by the once dominant automobile giant. An unsettling realization enveloped the industry. The transition towards electrification was not merely an option, but an imperative, reshaping the very foundation of automotive commerce. This imperative redefined marketing strategies throughout the sector. Traditional advertising methods waned in effectiveness, overshadowed by the rise of social media platforms. These digital arenas facilitated a direct connection between manufacturers and consumers, altering engagement dynamics. Feedback became immediate, often brutal, forcing automakers to adapt swiftly or face public backlash. Platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook became battlegrounds for brand loyalty and reputation. The influence of influencers emerged, with individuals wielding substantial power to sway public perception. A single post could amplify a vehicle's desirability or tarnish a carefully cultivated image. This shift demanded agility. They could no longer rely solely on traditional endorsements from established celebrities. Additionally, the data gathered from social media interactions provided invaluable insights into consumer preferences. Analytics revealed trends, desires, and potential pitfalls, allowing companies to refine their offerings in real time. This data-driven approach marked a departure from the past, where intuition and historical performance guided decisions. Against this backdrop, the Fading Company grappled with its legacy, struggling to strike a balance between innovation and the expectations of a rapidly evolving audience. The challenge was not just technological, but deeply intertwined with the narrative they projected. In this new landscape, maintaining authenticity became paramount, as consumers increasingly sought brands with genuine values. Financial performance post-bailout revealed a complex picture for the Fading Company. Initial indicators suggested recovery, with a surge in stock prices and optimistic projections. This brief resurgence, however, masked deeper structural issues that remained unresolved. Revenue streams became increasingly reliant on a narrow range of successful models, leaving it vulnerable to fluctuations in consumer preferences. The introduction of electric vehicles was met with mixed responses. While efforts to innovate and adapt to changing market demands were commendable, execution proved inconsistent. Investments in technology and infrastructure lagged behind competitors, resulting in a perception of stagnation. The once lauded engineering prowess, which had defined this region's industry for decades, began to feel like a distant memory. Amidst these challenges, operational costs continued to escalate. Manufacturing inefficiencies and legacy pension obligations strained profitability. Analysts noted that while the company managed to avoid immediate collapse, the long-term sustainability remained in jeopardy. Market share eroded steadily as consumers gravitated towards rivals perceived as more agile and forward-thinking. Strategic decisions reflected a cautious optimism, yet they often lacked the boldness required to reclaim lost ground. Thus, the narrative of recovery became increasingly overshadowed by the specter of decline as the company grappled with its identity in a transforming automotive landscape. The allure of past glory faded, overshadowed by an uncertain future. The rise of digital platforms significantly altered the landscape for traditional dealerships. Once bustling centers of commerce, these establishments now faced an existential crisis as consumers turned to online marketplaces for vehicle purchases. The convenience of virtual browsing, coupled with the accessibility of information, rendered the conventional dealership model increasingly obsolete. Sales figures began to reflect this seismic shift. Transactions that once necessitated the physical presence of buyers and sellers transitioned to screens. This new reality meant that the role of dealerships evolved, often becoming more of a logistics hub than a primary sales venue. Many establishments struggled to adapt, grappling with the need for substantial investments in technology and training. The decline of foot traffic became a stark indicator of changing consumer preferences. The atmosphere of these once vibrant locations grew quieter, with fewer interactions taking place. This region, once alive with activity, became marked by uncertainty and dwindling interest. In efforts to remain relevant, some dealerships embraced new technologies, integrating online sales platforms with their operations. Yet, the effectiveness of such measures varied considerably. The fading company found itself competing not only with peers, but also with direct-to-consumer models, further complicating an already fragile situation. Amidst this transformation, the essence of traditional car buying was altered, leaving many to ponder the future of these institutions. In this evolving landscape, federal regulations emerged as both a catalyst and a constraint, shaping the trajectory of innovation within the automotive industry. These mandates aimed at safety, emissions, and fuel efficiency introduced a labyrinth of standards that manufacturers were obliged to navigate. Compliance demanded significant investment in research and development, often diverting resources from other critical areas. As these requirements intensified, the pressure mounted on automakers to innovate within a tightly controlled framework. The push for electric vehicles became a focal point of this regulatory environment. While some companies embraced the change as a chance to redefine their identity, others struggled to adapt, caught in the inertia of outdated practices and technologies. This hesitation further widened the gap between those who could pivot and those who could not. In this context, the historical giants faced scrutiny not only from increasing competition, but also from regulatory agencies intent on minimizing environmental impact. The balance between compliance and creativity became precarious. The once untouchable dominance of industry leaders began to erode, as nimble startups and foreign manufacturers capitalized on the opportunity to innovate unfettered by legacy constraints. These shifts reflected a broader societal demand for sustainability and accountability, leaving traditional players to confront the reality of their shrinking influence in a rapidly changing automotive landscape. Strategies for improving customer experience became a focal point for this fading company as it sought to navigate the tumultuous waters of a transformed market. Embracing technology, they developed comprehensive platforms aimed at enhancing interaction between consumers and their vehicles. User-friendly interfaces were introduced, allowing for seamless connectivity and personalization in driving experiences. Investment in electric vehicle technology also emerged as a pivotal strategy, with an emphasis on appealing to environmentally conscious consumers. These initiatives aligned with the growing expectation for transparency and sustainability, further attempting to bridge the widening gap between the brand and its customer base. Customer feedback mechanisms were enhanced, creating an avenue for dialogue that had previously been overlooked. In adapting to the evolving needs of consumers, extensive research was conducted to understand preferences, ensuring that products reflected their desires. This effort was coupled with a commitment to after-sales service, aiming to cultivate loyalty in an increasingly competitive environment. Incentives for vehicle upgrades and trade-ins were introduced, encouraging retention and fostering a sense of community among existing customers. This region witnessed the rise of customer-centric campaigns, highlighting not only the vehicle's performance but also its role in a sustainable future. Yet, despite these efforts, the specter of decline loomed, casting a long shadow over the once mighty giant. The impact of global trade policies on operations intensified the challenges faced by the fading company. Tariffs imposed on imported vehicles and components disrupted established supply chains, increasing costs and complicating production schedules. These changes forced adjustments that strained resources and eroded profitability. With competition intensifying from foreign manufacturers, the pressure to innovate grew heavier, yet the company struggled to adapt quickly to shifting market demands. Trade agreements, once viewed as opportunities, began to feel like obstacles. Regulations and standards varied greatly from one region to another, creating an environment where compliance became a burden rather than an advantage. The workforce found itself navigating an increasingly complex landscape of international trade laws, which further contributed to operational inefficiencies. As foreign competitors gained traction in markets that were once dominated, it became apparent that these policies favored nimble, smaller manufacturers capable of swiftly adapting to the changing tides. The burden of legacy costs weighed heavily, limiting flexibility and responsiveness. Economic downturns, exacerbated by adverse trade policies, tested the resilience of the fading company. The once proud assembly lines, which echoed with promise, fell silent as production numbers dwindled. This shift reflected a broader trend, where decisions made far from the manufacturing floor influenced the fate of an automotive titan, now struggling to find its footing in a tumultuous global market. Challenges in workforce transition began to surface, underscoring the complexities of adapting a long-standing labor force to new technologies and methodologies. The once reliable skills of assembly line workers became increasingly obsolete in the face of automation and innovation. Job roles, historically defined by mechanical tasks, began to dissipate, leaving a void that demanded retraining and adaptability. Resistance emerged among employees accustomed to traditional practices, compounded by a growing sense of uncertainty about their future. The psychological toll of potential job loss weighed heavily on those who had dedicated decades to the company. Concerns over whether one could successfully transition into emerging roles in a digitized environment became pervasive. Training programs, while implemented, often fell short of addressing the diverse needs of the workforce. The steep learning curve associated with new technologies left many feeling overwhelmed, exacerbating feelings of frustration. The disconnect between management's vision and the workforce's readiness to embrace change widened, creating a chasm that seemed increasingly difficult to bridge. In this region of manufacturing, the remnants of an era defined by stability faded into the background. The once thriving assembly lines became quieter as the echoes of change reverberated through the plant. A profound transformation was underway, yet the struggles of transitioning personnel continued to challenge the very foundation of the enterprise. The future of traditional combustion engines became increasingly uncertain. Market trends indicated a growing preference for electric vehicles, reflecting a shift in consumer expectations and regulatory pressures. Amidst this backdrop, the automobile giant faced an uphill battle, grappling with a legacy that had once defined its success. The once dominant technology began to erode in relevance, leaving engineers and strategists to ponder the sustainability of their core offerings. Investments in research and development shifted toward alternative energy sources, leaving the internal combustion engine in a precarious position. The dwindling interest from younger generations, who prioritized eco-friendliness and innovation, further compounded these challenges. It became clear that the industry was at a crossroads, with time running short for traditional methods of propulsion. Production facilities, once bustling with activity, now echoed with the whispers of change. Employees and management alike faced uncertainty as decisions surrounding layoffs and retooling became commonplace. This region, once a beacon of automotive engineering, now bore witness to the gradual dismantling of an era. Competing manufacturers accelerated their transition to hybrid and electric platforms, leaving the fading company to reevaluate its strategy. The landscape of personal transportation was shifting rapidly, and the remnants of an old world began to blur. Those who remained were left to navigate a future where the familiar hum of combustion engines might soon become a distant memory. The shift in environmental consciousness emerged as an undeniable force, reshaping priorities within the automotive sphere. Manufacturers faced increasing pressure to adapt to stringent regulations aimed at reducing carbon emissions. This transformation demanded significant investment in research and development, compelling companies to pivot towards electric and hybrid technologies. Many found themselves grappling with the complexities of retooling production lines and retraining skilled labor, all while adhering to evolving standards. These changes not only altered manufacturing processes, but also affected supply chains, which began to buckle under the strain of sourcing sustainable materials. The once reliable networks that supported traditional vehicle production became increasingly challenged by the need for lithium, cobalt, and other critical resources. As competition intensified, securing these minerals grew paramount, leading to geopolitical tensions and economic volatility. Corporate strategies began to shift dramatically, with legacy brands struggling to balance their historical identity against the imperative for innovation. Market share was increasingly claimed by nimble newcomers, unencumbered by decades of tradition. The urgency to embrace sustainability became a relentless drumbeat, often drowning out the voices of those advocating for gradual adaptation. In this turbulent landscape, the fading company found itself at a crossroads, caught between a storied past and an uncertain future where climate change dictated the rules of engagement. Decisions made in this critical juncture would reverberate through the industry for decades to come. Social responsibility initiatives began to emerge as a focal point for the fading company, influencing its brand image significantly. These efforts were not merely a response to societal pressures, but a calculated strategy to regain consumer trust and relevance in a rapidly changing marketplace. environmental concerns and the demand for sustainable practices became paramount, pushing it to undertake various projects aimed at reducing its carbon footprint. The introduction of electric vehicles marked a pivotal turn, positioning it as a forward-thinking leader in sustainability. This shift, while beneficial for public perception, was also fraught with challenges. Investment in new technologies and infrastructure came at a high cost, stretching resources thin. The ambitious plans to innovate were often met with skepticism due to a history of falling short on promises. As the company sought to redefine its identity through socially responsible practices, contradictions emerged. Efforts to promote eco-friendly initiatives sometimes clashed with perceptions of the automobile industry as a whole, which continued to grapple with its legacy of environmental degradation. Brands within this region faced scrutiny as consumers became increasingly discerning. In the backdrop, the competition was relentless. Rivals who adopted similar initiatives garnered attention and loyalty. The balancing act of maintaining profitability while upholding a commitment to social responsibility created a complex and often precarious situation for the fading giant. The demand for precision in market strategy intensified as the fading giant navigated its precarious position. Data analytics emerged as a tool, promising insights that could reshape decision-making processes. This technology offered the potential to dissect consumer behavior, revealing patterns and preferences that could guide production and marketing efforts. In this region, various data points accumulated, from sales figures to customer feedback, creating a wealth of information. The ability to analyze such data allowed for targeted advertising campaigns and product development aligned with consumer desires. Yet, reliance on these systems often exposed limitations. Rapidly changing market conditions and unpredictable economic factors could render data-driven forecasts obsolete, leading to miscalculations and misguided investments. By the time the organization sought to leverage advanced analytics, competitors had already capitalized on similar technologies, gaining significant market share. The gap widened as agility in strategy became imperative, yet they struggled to adapt. An inclination to rely heavily on traditional practices inhibited their ability to pivot effectively. As reliance on data analytics grew, internal silos formed, resulting in fragmented insights that stifled collaborative efforts. The complexities of integration into existing frameworks proved challenging. Strategic partnerships emerged as a vital component in navigating the intricacies of technological development. Collaboration with innovative firms provided access to cutting-edge advancements that could not be cultivated internally. By pooling resources and expertise, these alliances offered the potential for enhanced product offerings and improved operational efficiencies. The landscape of the automotive industry began to shift as emerging technologies demanded rapid adaptation. Traditional manufacturing methods faced obsolescence in the wake of electrification and automation. These transformations underscored the necessity of aligning with tech-centric entities capable of driving change. Investments in software and connectivity became essential, with a focus on creating vehicles that were increasingly sophisticated. Partnerships with technology companies allowed for the integration of advanced driver assistance systems and artificial intelligence. This cooperative approach aimed to maintain relevance in a world where consumer preferences shifted towards smart technology and sustainability. A failure to establish robust collaborations resulted in stagnation. The competitive edge once held by the fading company diminished as rivals embraced partnerships that propelled them forward. The consequences of ignoring this essential strategy became apparent as market share eroded. Adopting a more flexible stance towards collaboration could have mitigated the impact of these challenges, allowing for a more resilient response to the evolving demands of the automotive environment. Leadership transitions often serve as pivotal moments in corporate histories, influencing strategic directions and organizational cultures. In this instance, the departure of longtime executives marked the beginning of a new era for the fading company. The incoming leadership, tasked with steering the organization amidst shifting consumer preferences, embraced a blend of traditional practices and innovative approaches. They approached the challenges with a sense of urgency, yet their decisions were frequently hindered by the weight of inherited legacies. Amidst the ongoing technological advancements, contradictions emerged within the ranks. The new executives sought to pivot towards electric and autonomous vehicles, recognizing the pressing need for adaptation. Resistance from established divisions complicated efforts, creating internal friction that stifled progress. This fragmentation manifested in a lack of cohesive vision, leaving the workforce uncertain about the future trajectory. Market pressures intensified as rival manufacturers advanced swiftly with cutting-edge technologies and sustainable practices. As performance metrics began to falter, the executive team faced mounting scrutiny from stakeholders. Each quarterly report unveiled a deeper struggle to reclaim market dominance, revealing the chasm between ambition and reality. The once stalwart giant now grappled with its identity, caught between nostalgia for its past triumphs and the urgent need for transformation. In the backdrop, loyal consumers observed, their hopes tethered to a legacy now overshadowed by uncertainty. Traditional marketing strategies once defined the automobile giant's identity, capturing the attention of countless potential buyers. These efforts, anchored in innovation and aspirational messaging, formed a bridge between the company and a diverse audience. In recent years, the landscape shifted dramatically as the rise of digital platforms altered consumer engagement. This transition demanded a recalibration of marketing practices, prompting the fading company to explore new avenues. Digital campaigns emerged as vital components in the effort to regain market share. Targeted advertisements reached consumers in their homes, promising the allure of modern vehicles and sustainable options. Social media platforms became essential tools, enabling direct interaction with consumers and fostering brand loyalty through engagement. The once dominant television commercials were now accompanied by dynamic online content designed to resonate with a younger demographic. In addition, partnerships with influencers and collaborations with tech companies reflected an understanding of evolving consumer preferences. These strategies aimed to position the automobile giant as not merely a manufacturer, but a forward-thinking entity invested in sustainable practices and innovation. As new models were introduced, marketing narratives emphasized advanced technology and eco-friendliness, attempting to align with contemporary values. Despite these efforts, the journey to reclaiming market dominance remains fraught with challenges. The fading company faces an increasingly competitive environment, requiring continued adaptation and resilience. Global economic trends exert significant influence on performance. Fluctuations in oil prices directly impact consumer preferences, shifting demand towards fuel-efficient vehicles. These changes often leave traditional manufacturers scrambling to adjust their offerings. The rise of electric vehicles presents another challenge as competitors rapidly innovate to capture market share. This region experiences a growing emphasis on sustainability, influencing purchasing decisions and forcing established players to reconsider long-standing strategies. Tariffs and trade agreements further complicate the landscape, affecting supply chains and manufacturing costs. Shifts in policy create uncertainty, often leading to hesitance among consumers and investors alike. The company, once synonymous with American automotive prowess, grapples with the repercussions of globalization. International markets present both opportunities and risks. A misalignment with local consumer expectations can result in significant losses. Economic downturns exacerbate these challenges, leading to diminished consumer spending and tighter credit conditions. An erosion of market confidence translates into decreased sales volumes. As competitors adapt more swiftly, it becomes increasingly difficult to maintain a foothold in an evolving marketplace. Existing models struggle under the weight of outdated perceptions, while new entrants redefine consumer relationships with automobiles. The need for strategic recalibration becomes apparent as the legacy brand endeavors to navigate this complex, shifting terrain. The emergence of ride-sharing services marked a pivotal shift in the automotive landscape. These platforms offered flexibility and convenience, attracting a younger demographic increasingly disinclined toward traditional car ownership. It became evident that an entire generation preferred the simplicity of an app over the complexities of maintenance and insurance. This shift not only altered consumer behavior, but also threatened the very foundation of established automotive companies. Competition for market share intensified as this new model gained traction. With the rise of these services, the once unassailable dominance of legacy brands began to erode. The allure of immediate access to vehicles without the responsibilities of ownership proved irresistible for many. This transformation highlighted a fundamental change in urban mobility, where owning a vehicle was no longer synonymous with independence. The thriving ride-sharing industry diverted attention and resources from traditional automotive manufacturing. Profits dwindled as consumer preferences shifted, forcing companies to reconsider their operational strategies. This region, once bustling with the sounds of production lines and the pride of American engineering, now faced a stark reality of declining sales and market relevance. Legacy companies, once viewed as titans of the industry, grappled with their identity in this evolving landscape. The challenge was not merely to adapt, but to redefine their role in a world where mobility was being reimagined. The landscape was changing, and the implications were profound. The challenges of manufacturing in a post-pandemic world began to surface with increasing clarity. Supply chain disruptions became prevalent, affecting production schedules and inventory levels. Factories faced shutdowns, not only due to government mandates, but also because of labor shortages. Employees, wary of health risks, opted for remote work or exited the workforce entirely. The once thriving assembly lines, which had produced millions of vehicles, now stood silent, echoing the uncertainty that permeated the industry. Raw materials became scarce, leading to inflated costs and extended lead times, a stark contrast to the efficiency of previous years. These factors contributed to delays, preventing timely deliveries to dealers and customers alike. Market demand fluctuated wildly, creating a sense of unpredictability that many companies struggled to navigate. Consumer preferences shifted, with a notable surge in interest for electric vehicles. This transition necessitated significant investment in new technologies and infrastructure, further stretching resources thin. Amidst these challenges, some companies attempted to pivot, embracing innovation and sustainability, while others clung to outdated models, unable to adapt to the evolving environment. It became evident that resilience and flexibility would define success in this new era. Yet, the specter of decline loomed, as many organizations grappled with the harsh realities of an altered marketplace. The evolving landscape of consumer safety regulations significantly impacted design practices within the automobile industry. These mandates emerged as a response to growing public concern over vehicular safety, compelling manufacturers to prioritize consumer protection above all else. This shift necessitated substantial investment in research and development, as companies were tasked with integrating innovative safety features into their vehicles. The introduction of standardized crash tests and fuel efficiency benchmarks marked a turning point. This region became synonymous with rigorous testing protocols, and manufacturers were faced with the challenge of adapting their designs to meet these new requirements. It was a delicate balancing act, as the pressure to maintain aesthetic appeal and brand identity clashed with the necessity of enhancing safety measures. Over time, these regulations led to a gradual transformation in the design philosophy of automobiles. Features like airbags, anti-lock braking systems, and electronic stability control became commonplace, fundamentally altering the structure and engineering of vehicles. The implications of these regulations extended beyond safety. They also influenced production costs and timelines. As compliance became increasingly complex, some manufacturers struggled to keep pace, resulting in a widening gap between those who successfully adapted and those who could not. This disparity underscored the critical intersection of consumer safety and corporate viability, shaping the trajectory of the industry for years to come. The expansion into international markets marked a pivotal chapter for the Fading Company. In China, a burgeoning automotive landscape offered unprecedented growth potential. The shift in focus to this region illustrated a strategic pivot aimed at harnessing the vast consumer base. Partnerships with local manufacturers became essential, fostering an environment of collaboration and competition. The allure of the Chinese market was undeniable, presenting opportunities that seemed boundless at the time. Investment flowed into this region as GM sought to establish a foothold amid rapidly changing consumer preferences. The introduction of electric vehicles aligned with governmental initiatives, emphasizing sustainability and innovation. Yet, challenges emerged, such as navigating regulatory landscapes and adapting to local tastes. The intricacies of the market demanded agility and foresight, elements that would soon be tested. Beyond China, other international ventures offered a mixed bag of outcomes. Markets in Europe and South America presented unique hurdles, including economic fluctuations and shifting consumer demands. The ability to integrate global strategies while maintaining local relevance proved elusive. As competition intensified from both established manufacturers and emerging players, the Fading Company's once dominant position began to wane. Each misstep in various markets contributed to a broader narrative of decline, echoing the complexities of globalization in an ever-evolving automotive landscape. The significance of these international pursuits reverberated through the corridors of the organization, shaping its legacy. Incentives crafted for electric vehicle purchases emerged as a critical factor in the evolving automotive landscape. These financial maneuvers aimed to stimulate consumer interest while addressing environmental concerns. A gradual shift in public sentiment favored greener alternatives, creating an opportunity for manufacturers to pivot. Sales figures began to reflect this changing tide, as consumers found themselves drawn to the allure of government-backed savings. It was not merely a matter of preference. The financial implications proved transformative. The incentives provided a compelling reason for many to consider electric vehicles over traditional combustion engines. This transition marked a significant moment in the market, as it became increasingly evident that consumer choices were aligning with broader environmental goals. Yet the fading companies struggled to keep pace with this transition. Established practices and long-held beliefs about the supremacy of gasoline engines stifled agility. The urgency of adapting to this new reality often clashed with internal resistance. While competitors embraced innovation, they remained entrenched in a historical framework that no longer resonated with the evolving consumer base. The disconnect became apparent as electric models from rival manufacturers surged in popularity. Each quarter revealed the widening gap, underscoring the urgency for re-evaluation. The challenge was no longer merely about maintaining market share. It was a matter of survival amid an accelerating transformation. The corporate governance structure began to reveal fractures, reflecting the broader challenges faced by this once mighty corporation. Board members, tasked with steering the company through turbulent waters, often found themselves at odds with the growing demands of stakeholders. The lack of cohesive leadership emerged as a critical weakness, leading to decisions that sometimes prioritized short-term gains over long-term stability. This region experienced a distinct shift in management philosophy, as the emphasis on innovation became overshadowed by a fixation on cost-cutting measures. The disconnect between the boardroom and engineering teams resulted in a stagnation of product development, leaving the company vulnerable to nimbler competitors. Decisions increasingly reflected a defensive posture, indicating a reluctance to embrace the disruptive changes reshaping the automotive landscape. Amidst these developments, the corporate culture struggled to adapt. An atmosphere of uncertainty permeated the workforce, with employee morale declining as layoffs and restructuring became commonplace. Discontent simmered, contributing to an erosion of trust in leadership. Financial disclosures illustrated the consequences of these governance challenges, revealing declining revenues and mounting liabilities. The once unassailable reputation began to tarnish as consumer loyalty waned. This decline in public perception further complicated efforts to rejuvenate the brand. As the company grappled with these issues, the path to recovery remained obscured by the shadows of its governance missteps. The influence of consumer reviews and ratings steadily grew, altering the landscape of the automotive market. It became apparent that potential buyers increasingly relied on the experiences of others, scrutinizing feedback as a pivotal factor in their purchasing decisions. This shift shifted the dynamics within the industry, where traditional marketing strategies began to lose their potency. The once impenetrable fortress of brand loyalty eroded, leaving companies vulnerable to the power of collective opinion. Negative reviews and low ratings took a toll on sales figures, particularly in a climate where trust was paramount. This region witnessed a gradual decline in General Motors' market position as rivals capitalized on positive consumer sentiment. These ruins of a once formidable presence revealed a stark contrast between expectations and reality. The discontent expressed by customers regarding quality and reliability resonated throughout the marketplace, solidifying a perception that could not be easily reversed. Efforts to address these concerns often seemed insufficient, as the damage had already been done. Transparency became essential. Consumers demanded accountability, with a keen eye on the performance of their vehicles. The evolution of digital platforms further amplified these voices, ensuring that even the smallest grievances were amplified, influencing the decisions of prospective buyers. The delicate balance between reputation and reality remained precarious, with ramifications felt deep within the organization. The future of the automotive workforce faced significant uncertainty as the industry shifted towards electrification and automation. This transition demanded new skills, leaving many workers grappling with the question of relevance in an evolving landscape. Traditional roles, once considered stable and secure, became increasingly obsolete, creating a palpable atmosphere of anxiety among employees. Training programs emerged as critical components in this adaptation process, aimed at equipping the workforce with the necessary competencies to thrive in a changing environment. Collaboration between corporations and educational institutions became vital, establishing pathways for individuals to acquire knowledge in emerging technologies, such as electric vehicle systems and advanced manufacturing processes. In this region, the once thriving factories now stood as monuments to a bygone era, their assembly lines silent, yet filled with the echoes of labor that once defined them. The employees, now engaged in retraining initiatives, faced the challenge of mastering digital tools and software that had become integral to modern automotive manufacturing. Opportunities for skill enhancement were not uniformly accessible, creating disparities among workers based on geography and socioeconomic status. As these individuals navigated their futures, the industry's commitment to sustainability and innovation would play a crucial role in determining the longevity of this workforce. The evolution of skills and training fashioned a critical intersection in the journey towards recovery and rebirth within the automotive sector. Innovation hubs emerged as crucial elements in the landscape of automotive development, often serving as incubators for new ideas and technological advancements. These centers, situated in various regions, attracted talent from diverse backgrounds, fostering a collaborative environment that encouraged risk-taking and experimentation. Within these hubs, engineers, designers, and entrepreneurs worked together, breaking traditional silos that had previously stifled creativity. The influence of these environments became evident as companies sought to adapt to shifting market demands and consumer expectations. They nurtured a culture of agility, allowing organizations to pivot quickly in response to emerging trends. This transformation was particularly vital in the face of increasing competition from electric vehicle manufacturers and tech companies venturing into the automotive space. Investment in research and development surged within these innovation hubs, leading to breakthroughs in areas such as autonomous driving, battery technology, and sustainable materials. These advancements not only enhanced vehicle performance, but also addressed growing concerns over environmental sustainability. As this region became synonymous with progress, many traditional automakers began to relocate their operations closer to these centers of innovation. The hope was to revitalize their failing strategies and reconnect with the essence of automotive ingenuity. Yet, the inherent challenges of integration and adaptation remained ever present, casting a shadow over the long-term viability of these initiatives. The evolution of aftermarket services in the auto industry emerged as a response to shifting consumer expectations and the increasing complexity of vehicle technology. This sector, once considered ancillary, began to assume greater importance as manufacturers like General Motors faced heightened competition from emerging players. Over time, it became evident that a robust aftermarket strategy could enhance customer loyalty and generate significant revenue streams. Initially, the focus was on basic services such as maintenance and repairs. As vehicles incorporated advanced electronics and software, the need for specialized knowledge became critical. This region witnessed a gradual transformation, with many automotive companies investing in training programs and developing partnerships with service providers. These efforts aimed to ensure that technicians were equipped to handle the intricacies of modern vehicles. The rise of digital platforms further changed the landscape, enabling consumers to access information and services with unprecedented ease. Online parts retailers emerged, offering a vast selection that often eclipsed traditional dealership inventories. This shift created a more competitive environment as customers began to prioritize convenience and cost-effectiveness. In response, established manufacturers endeavored to reclaim market share by enhancing their service offerings. They introduced loyalty programs and streamlined appointment scheduling, striving to create a more seamless experience. Despite these efforts, the challenge of maintaining relevance in a rapidly evolving market remained a persistent concern. The impact of economic inequality on consumer spending became increasingly pronounced as time progressed. With a widening gap between the affluent and the struggling, purchasing power diminished for a significant portion of the population. This shift altered the landscape of consumer behavior, leading to a decline in demand for new vehicles. The once reliable customer base, now constrained by financial limitations, turned to used cars or alternative transportation methods. This region saw a notable decrease in showroom traffic and a corresponding rise in discount dealerships, which catered to budget-conscious consumers seeking affordability over brand loyalty. The allure of luxury vehicles faded as economic realities set in for many households. As the demand for new automobiles weakened, this once thriving giant faced challenges in production and inventory management. Layers of excess capacity became apparent, complicating financial projections and operational strategies. The inability to adapt to shifting market dynamics weighed heavily on the organization, straining resources and diminishing profitability. The struggle to innovate in a competitive landscape intensified. Executives grappled with the need to balance high-quality offerings with consumer expectations for cost-effective solutions. In response, some began to explore alternative energy sources and technologies, yet these initiatives often lagged behind the pace of change demanded by the marketplace. The gradual erosion of consumer confidence further contributed to the decline, marking a pivotal moment in the history of the automobile giant. The importance of sustainability in corporate strategy became increasingly evident as the world shifted toward environmental consciousness. This region witnessed a growing demand for greener alternatives and eco-friendly practices, reshaping consumer expectations. corporations that failed to adapt found themselves at a distinct disadvantage, unable to meet the evolving regulatory landscape or public sentiment. Sustainable initiatives, once viewed as ancillary, emerged as essential components of viable business models. Companies began to invest in research and development to produce electric vehicles and reduce carbon footprints. This transformation was not merely a response to market pressures, but rather a foundational shift toward long-term viability. In this context, the Fading Company struggled to align its strategies with sustainable practices. The commitment to innovation faltered, overshadowed by a reliance on traditional combustion engines that no longer resonated with progressive consumers. This misalignment became increasingly damaging as competitors embraced sustainability as a core identity, reaping the rewards of enhanced brand loyalty and market share. The consequences of neglecting sustainability extended beyond reputation. They impacted financial performance and operational efficiency. The inability to pivot towards sustainable solutions revealed a profound disconnect between legacy operations and the demands of a changing world. This disconnect manifested in decisions that seemed increasingly out of touch with the evolving automotive landscape. Corporate strategies, once celebrated for their innovation and market foresight, grew stagnant. It became apparent that a reliance on traditional combustion engines overshadowed the potential for electric and hybrid technologies. This reluctance to embrace change created vulnerabilities that competitors quickly exploited. Market share diminished as new players entered, showcasing advancements in both design and efficiency. The once iconic brand struggled to maintain its former prestige, reflected in declining sales figures and an eroding customer base. This decline served as a cautionary tale for other industry leaders, illustrating the consequences of complacency in a rapidly shifting environment. Corporate culture, too, played a significant role. Internal resistance to change stifled creativity and innovation, leading to a workforce that became disengaged from the company's mission. The disconnect between management and employees contributed to a lack of cohesive vision, making it difficult to respond to consumer needs and preferences. Lessons learned from this decline are manifold. Companies must cultivate an adaptive mindset, prioritizing agility over tradition. Fostering a culture of innovation and open communication can help organizations navigate disruptive changes. Embracing the future, rather than clinging to the past, is essential for sustainability and growth in an ever-evolving marketplace. The future of General Motors reflects a strategic vision aimed at redefining its identity within the automotive landscape. This ambition includes a commitment to electric mobility, with plans to transition its fleet to an all-electric lineup by 2030. Investments in battery technology and sustainable manufacturing processes are positioned as cornerstones of this initiative, emphasizing a shift towards environmental responsibility. Partnerships with emerging technology companies are being formed to enhance innovation and streamline production. By fostering these collaborations, the Fading Company seeks to leverage cutting-edge advancements, integrating artificial intelligence and autonomous driving features. These efforts are intended to attract a new generation of consumers increasingly concerned with sustainability and technological integration. Research facilities are being established to explore alternative energy sources, aiming to diversify beyond traditional fossil fuels. This region, once synonymous with combustion engines, now serves as a backdrop for a transformation focused on renewable solutions. The once dominant presence of gasoline-powered vehicles is being replaced by electric models that promise reduced emissions and improved efficiency. Challenges remain, including market competition and the need for infrastructure to support electric vehicles. As the landscape shifts, maintaining relevance requires agility and foresight. The legacy of General Motors is poised to evolve, with ambitions that reflect both resilience and a commitment to a sustainable future.